Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. This is a new sub-series, Eminent Turk Scientists. And first part is about Akşemseddin, which is his Turkish pronunciation. And in Arabic or Urdu, we will call it Shamsuddin. So before that, I have already presented sub-series of Eminent Turk Scientists and Eminent Persian Scientists. So his full name was Muhammad Shamsuddin bin Hamzah, and he was a very influential scientist in the Ottoman Empire. And he was also a scholar, a poet, and a very highly regarded mystic saint. So Turkish called him Akşemseddin because he always wore white clothes, and X stands for white in Turkish language. So why he is so important? He was the first person to give the concept of microbes, that is the germ theory of disease, and is rightly considered the father of microbiology. Often it is said in the West that Louis Pasteur is the father of microbiology, but that is wrong. This was the person who gave the germ theory of disease. He mentioned this in his work, Madatul Hayat, the material of life, about 2 centuries prior to Antony von Leeuwenhoek's discovery through experimentation. You know that Antony von Leeuwenhoek, he, he did not invent the microscope, but he was the first person to observe these microbes under a microscope. So we are always taught that he was the first person who gave the concepts of germs. But that is wrong because Shamsuddin wrote in his book, it is incorrect to assume that diseases appear one by one in humans. Disease infects by spreading from one person to another. This infection occurs through seeds that are so small they cannot be seen but are alive. You see how correct is this, his wordings. So he said that these diseases doesn't sprout out spontaneously, and they transfer from one person to another, and the cause of these diseases are very small organisms, which he called seeds, which cannot be seen. Of course, they cannot be seen by open naked eye, and in those days there was no microscope. But they are alive. Of course, they are alive, so they spread. And the important word is seed. You see, what from seed a new tree or plant sprouts out. Similarly, a single microbe, it divides and gives rise to other microbes. So very appropriate word is used over here. So those who are not aware with microbiology, so under the microscope, when you even see a drop of water, ordinary drop of water, you will see structures like this. And these include fungi, algae, protists, bacteria, and archaea. And they have different shapes, different sizes, different formations. So these are all microbes about which he talked, Shamsuddin, more than 1,000, about 1,607 years back. Because he had no microscope. It was just his imagination and his consideration that it happens like this. So, of course, his theory was proved scientifically correct several centuries later when Leeuwenhoek saw these microbes under his microscope. And he also had a concept of infectious diseases and environmental sanitation and personal hygiene as preventive strategies to stop the spread of these diseases. I mean, he knew that these things are important. He is also recognized, he also recognized the importance of hygiene, quarantine to separate those who are affected so that others are not affected, and environmental measures in preventing the spread of infectious diseases. So, I mean, epidemiology, he had a grip on that also. He was also knowledgeable in the treatment of psychological and spiritual disorders. So let us have a look on his life. He was grandson of Shahabuddin al-Suhrawardi, who was a descendant of Hazrat Abu Bakr Siddiq, the first caliph. His father, Sayyid Hamzah Sami, was a saint, Sufi saint, and lived in Damascus, and then he moved to Kavak district of Amasya. So Shamsuddin memorized the Holy Quran at an early age. And from the very beginning, he was interested in science and arts. And beside religious sciences, he also received medical education. And after completing his scientific education, he was appointed as a lecturer in a madrasa or university in Osman. This is a city in Turkey. So he was a very famous scholar of Islamic sciences, but also he contributed to medicine, astronomy, biology, and mathematics. He served in Ottoman madrasas for long years and raised hundreds of students. And he produced important works about epidemic diseases in the field of science, medicine. So his medical expertise were recognized even at the court, and he successfully treated Suleiman Pasha, who was a chief judge in the days of Sultan Murad II, and later he healed the daughter of Mem- Sultan Muhammad the Conqueror. So this brought him very close to the emperor. He died in Gonokbolu, Turkey on 16 February 1439. This is his tomb over there. Now, legacy. He was a spiritual teacher of Sultan Muhammad Fateh. And when Constantinople was conquered and Turkish army reached the gate of the city, the Sultan and Shamsuddin were leading it. You see how important he was. That he was alongside the Sultan, not behind him. So local population took him as Sultan due to his white clothes, white uh, beard and appearance. He looked more appealing to the local public. But he pointed towards Sultan that he is the Sultan. But Sultan requested him that he should enter the city first. So he was the first man to enter the city of Constantinople when it was conquered, and not the Sultan. Sultan followed after him. So that was the status this person had. And all through the miniseries I have presented, you would see that scientists, they were treated as royalties. They were very affluent and they were very, very influential. So that, I mean, that golden age of Islam, they recognized the importance of science, and that is why it prospered. So it is also a message for our current days rulers. He is also credited to discover the lost grave of Hazrat Abu Ayyub al-Ansari in Constantinople before the siege of Constantinople. So you know that there was a siege for several months before the final victory. So during that period, he was able to detect the grave of Hazrat Abu Ayyub al-Ansari, a very, very famous and highly regarded Sahabi. So among his books, of course, this Madat al-Hayat, that is Material of Life, is most important. And it is in Turkish language. And in this, he presented his germ theory. And this book is also a valuable source for medicine, botany, and pharmacy. And he also detailed the composition of medicines effective against various diseases and described methods for extracting juices, essences, and oils from natural substances for pharmaceutical production in this book. His work contributed to a systemic approach to medication, including the standardization of drug preparation. This is very important. The classification of medicinal substances according to their properties. Another basic rule of sciences, science and development of complex compound medicines. Then his other book about medicine is Kitab al-Tib. And he also wrote books on Sufism, including Risalat-e-Nuriya, Hall-e-Mushkilat, and Maqamat-e-Awliya. So these were the references I used. So next will be Piri Reis, another eminent Turk scientist. So this is a list of the scientists about which I have presented my vlogs already. So on the left you can see eminent Arab scientists. They are 10 in number. And on right, eminent Persian scientists 4. And now this I have started this series of Turkish scientists. Besides this, my other series are verses of the Holy Quran related to the universe, Pakistan, then events that shaped Islamic history. And already I have completed Japan series, famous persons, the other side, and miscellaneous topics. So again, to remind you how you can reach my vlogs. So please subscribe and share. Thank you very much for your attention. Allah Hafiz till the next vlog.